We are in.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Come back from a killer weekend. Pro prep smashed it again. So we had 8 athletes competing at the weekend and we brought home 8 trophies. So all
So
top.
good. Crazy, isn't it? I was actually thinking the other day, because I haven't competed in the UK since the COVID, etc. And I've only seen shows really on Instagram and whatever. And they don't look as busy and as, the same sort of vibe. I'm almost getting to that point where I'm like, I wonder what it's going to be like to compete again. Have you noticed a difference?
I'd say a little. I mean, when I was going to like the Two Bros and the Fit X's earlier on in the year, I actually thought they were pretty busy and good level of classes. The PCA shows I've been to have been pretty stacked so far. On the natural side of the circuit, we've only just really started kicking off about a month ago. So the natural shows are always later, usually in a good year. They normally start around March, but obviously just now they're a bit later on. So in terms of the couple of natural shows we've been to, I'd say a wee bit quieter. Some of that, though, I don't even think is down to COVID. I think it's just down to the nature of people changing their minds on where they want to compete.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's like this weekend just gone was a good level of competition and a very good standard and a good number of competitors as well. So every person in every class has had, a good, I think the smallest number of classes on that stage I saw was 3, but then the majority of them were like, your 6 upwards.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, it sort of went through my mind as well, like you touched on there with class that you get in each category, whether or not the lack of training and what people could get access to in lockdown would change the physiques that I'm used to being against, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think so. I think there's no doubt or taking it away that some people might not have had maybe the same level of improvement or can bring it in quite as much as they would do in a normal year. Saying that though, standards have been brilliant. I mean, I think you'll really enjoy it. And I think actually now that the shows are well underway and people are back at it, and it's kind of a feeling of, right, we're back to normal.
Yeah. Because that's my undercurrent there. That's what I'm hoping for. I can't wait. I almost feel like it's going to be really surreal to actually have that level of, when you really immerse in a show day, because it feels like it's been so long now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think now the audiences are kind of back to being pretty, you can sit where you want, you don't really have to be wearing masks, etc. Well, certainly in the English venues I've been at, there hasn't really been much of that. Yeah.
And that's, as we know, and we always try and get across, that's like one of the biggest parts, to just get so immersed in the day with everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's gonna be good.
Just over 1 week and then I'll be on that stage.
I can't even believe it's here so quickly as well. So close for you now.
And I can't get my head around, how is it September? And we were just talking about your show coming up. I mean, that's under 2 months till the Supernaturals now.
It is indeed, yeah. WNBF UK, first flagship event on the map. Yeah. I'm so excited about it.
I can't wait to be part of it as well. It's going to be so good.
I'm very much looking forward to it. So yeah, it's going to be a good day, a good event for natural bodybuilding, and the start of big things to come. So yeah.
So today's topic, we're gonna, like last week's video, we basically reached out and said to any listeners if they've got any topic ideas or questions that we could home in on after doing the meal plans and flexible dieting pod, could we sort of delve into things a little bit more? And we had someone kindly put in about vegan diets as a bodybuilder, but we've decided we will expand on that today and go through some vegan, vegetarian and alternative diets basically, and see where it leads us, because I think it's such a hot topic all the time really now, isn't it? I remember when I competed in 2019 at one of my UK UP shows, there was a vegan bodybuilder there and he did really well. And when they were announcing him, they said, okay, so we've got, and they said his name, he's a vegan bodybuilder. And it was like, huh?
Love it.
Like it was like he became like this standalone, right, he's a vegan bodybuilder. And it was like, Oh, because you wouldn't ever go, okay, this is Sarah from Bognor Regis and she eats chicken and rice. But suddenly there was this like announcement, it was like, and he's a vegan bodybuilder. And from then a couple of years ago, it's only got bigger and bigger and bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, it really has. I think it's an interesting one, because if we just start on vegan diet, like I've got quite a few vegans on my team actually, but the vegan diet sort of risen in popularity, hasn't it, in recent years?
Yeah.
It's kind of an increasing number of people, I think, are adopting this way of eating or finding its purpose is helpful for health benefits, for example. Also, of course, one big one as to why I know a couple of people have changed to eating purely vegan is surrounding kind of the ethics around animal treatment as well. Yeah. So it's kind of not only attracted like the interest of just general populations, but also of people like us, like athletes and bodybuilders that want a slightly healthier, well, I say healthier,
cleaner, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because no one diet can claim that title, because every diet has got a reason to somebody as to why they eat it for particular health reasons, etc. So I guess the topic today could be around what these kind of specific diets like vegetarian, vegan, dairy-free, keto, all these different kinds of diets would benefit a bodybuilder and how they might benefit a bodybuilder.
And also the different food sources and adaptations you would need to make to enable the goals of a bodybuilder.
Yeah, 100%.
Because as we've said before, the biggest, I don't want to say problem, but the hardest thing when you're vegan or vegetarian is getting the protein.
Protein intake, yeah, exactly.
Because the carbohydrates and the fats automatically go up with a lot of the vegan produce, other than things like tofu, say.
Yeah. That's where the struggle lies, isn't it? It's that you can put a vegan diet together, but it takes a bit more time to manipulate the macros to be balanced. Because like you say, you end up having, so much more carbohydrate in 100%. These diets. And it's hard to work out kind of to get that sort of rough, what is it, around 0.7 to 1 grams per kilo per body weight for protein. You really want to be getting that or more, or minimum that a minimum up to 2.2 grams potentially. And from a vegan diet, that can be really challenging.
And I also find, because I was vegetarian for 13 years before bodybuilding.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So when I made the transition to go to meat with bodybuilding, because I found it really difficult to do what we were just describing, get the protein up without the carbs and fat. I also find that the difficulty is, especially more vegetarian, a lot of the foods are heavily processed. So actually, if your reason is health, it's not actually healthier, because, things like corn or the Linda McCartney say, things like that, they're very processed.
Hugely. And they've got so much more in them.
Sodium.
Exactly.
Those types of things that we've spoken about before that can cause problems with body composition.
Yeah, and a lot of these foods as well, these more processed, I suppose. I mean, I have to pause here and say, I always think it's quite amusing that they make the alternatives, like meat-free alternatives to chicken and meat. It's kind of this.
This kills me.
Weird. It's like, let's go and buy some chicken, which isn't chicken, but we want it to taste like chicken, even though we don't want chicken. It's just a bizarre thing. But a lot of those things, you're absolutely right. Like, they have so many other additional things in them, but they also, and one of the things I've had with a couple of my vegan bodybuilders is we have to manage the fiber intake of some of this stuff, because there's so much fiber in it that the digestive issues that can cause can be quite prevalent if we're not careful. So you also have to watch sort of how much, because if you just ate like tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of veg all day long, it's going to be really,
it's hard on the body. Yeah. And I think people don't realize that actually you can end up verging on too much fiber, depending on it's very person dependent, but it can do the opposite to so it can feel like it clogs you up rather than helps keep you regular.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fine balance to find out what kind of where that is. And I think one of the specific things you're focusing on, when I know I've got like a vegan bodybuilder, and I'm just going to name somebody here, Nicole Third, if any of you guys have seen working with a girl called Nicole Third, brilliantly bodybuilder. She's coming in, she's in her first season at the moment. she's really muscled, thick muscle. We kind of utilize the diet, filling her up on sort of protein vegan foods. Like I have some of them in front of me, tofu, of course, all the different legumes, quinoa. These things have got quite a good amount of protein in them through her diet. And then we supplement where protein may fall down short with vegan protein shakes and things like that. But yeah, it's one of the areas we have to watch with her is the fibre intake across some of these more processed equivalent foods that you can buy, like your Linda McCartney stuff or your corn stuff. And what's the new one? It's got a funny name.
God, there's many now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Beyond Meat, or yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I mean, on the topic of protein powders, I've mentioned it before, but I use a vegan blend myself purely because it actually digests much better for me than whey. I find that whey bloats me out and can cause digestive issues, etc. And the vegan blends work really well, but I'm by no means a vegan. I mean, I love meat and everything to do with meat now, so I wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, and ethical reasons, completely on board with that, because some people, they really don't want to do that, and there's so many different versions now. I mean, I listened to a podcast the other day that spoke about flexitarian, and then there's flexi. So the example they actually gave, which is quite interesting, he was saying that he prefers not to eat as much meat in an off season because he can facilitate that. And then if he was dieting, he would go down into like more fish, not as much meat, and then eventually maybe cut out that as well and be flexible depending on what season he's in.
Oh, right. That's interesting. Yeah.
I never thought of it like that.
No, I haven't either. I mean, I've always taken kind of the approach that a good diet is a varied diet. That's kind of approach I've always gone down, where you don't want to be, of course, you don't want to be, if we just take a sort of standard meat diet here, you don't want to be eating red meat every day. That's not going to be healthy for you, and it's not going to be good for your gut and digestion and a lot of iron.
Yeah.
The same thing, like you don't want to just be having a white meat diet because it's not very varied. You won't get the nutrients that you might get from some other meats that you could potentially get. So my rule of thumb is always to have several different types of proteins coming from meat based, if you're a meat eater, that is, and fish, obviously, so that across the diet you're getting the nutrients from all different types of protein sources. And that's a good rule of thumb. That's the way I diet. It's the way I always prep my own guys. But like I'm always really careful about cutting specific foods out. I never know how well the body is actually going to respond whenever you introduce things back in. Sometimes I think you can overcomplicate it and take things out, put things in, but then once you do that, you micro-scrutinize and then suddenly you attach something to maybe taking something out or putting it back in that's maybe wasn't there before. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that.
There's a lot of like psychological things that I think can happen when you start to go a bit too restrictive, I suppose. Yeah, or just too choosy, when you start to get really like over the top with I'm having this because I'm doing that, and I think it can get a little bit overboard.
It only caused myself some intolerances, to be honest. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to avoid, obviously.
Yeah, and in hindsight, I wish I hadn't done certain, cut out things for long periods of time, because even single ingredient foods I can really have troubles with. Even your what we would class as cleaner food, down to things like rice, I can only really feel completely comfortable digestion wise with jasmine rice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And vegetables, you can, some fruit, bananas aren't good for me, things like that. It's funny, isn't it, how it goes? For anyone that's listening and not watching, we've got a bunch of bananas that have just been produced. But because I cut them out for so long, I was like, I don't want bananas. I want to use my carbs on volume. And then when I went back to it, I get a funny taste. My stomach bloats out a bit, and I think, oh, for God's sake, I can't eat hardly anything now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it all comes down as well, though, to like educating yourself, doesn't it? Because education plays such an important role in just following a specific plan, whether that's vegan or vegetarian. And if it's working for you, nobody can say it's wrong. You know, if you feel good on a certain diet and your body's responding well, you're getting sufficient, you know, macros hit, no matter what diet that is, hell yeah, go do it. You know, enjoy that diet if that's what works for you. Where I always have a bit of a issue is when you hear people slating diets when they know really nothing about them, and kind of you think, I feel in some respects, like if we just say vegan again, vegan gets a bit of a bad rep sometimes, because a lot of people will jump straight away on the stereotype and be like, oh, they're just one of those trendy like hipsters that wants to be like a vegan today, when actually there is some benefit to the decision to be a vegan. And given that, you know, the vegan diet prohibits the intake of several food groups, I could criticize that, but it's going to be each to their own, isn't it? Yeah.
I actually had quite a lengthy debate with a vegan once. It was a friend, but it started getting a little bit touch and go because you know, he was fully immersed in the vegan diet, and we started verging on the subject of, you know, eco reasons and what's happening to the planet, what's happening to animals, etc. And there was a couple of different tangents which were quite interesting actually. And you know, he was saying, well, you know, when I went into vegan, I actually felt healthier. I could go to the toilet better. I slept better. I had more energy. All of those things, actually, when you look at it, before he was vegan, he wasn't eating much fruit and veg. He was doing certain things that you then pretty much have to do as a vegan, because otherwise you're not going to be eating very much. So straight away I said to him, but what you've got to realize is even that change of eating more fruit and veg because you're now a vegan, that would help you get more energy and make you feel better and potentially help your sleep, etc. It's not because you're a vegan, it's because you're eating more fruit and veg. You know, there's undercurrents of things like that people don't look at. They become so tunnel visioned on, I'm now a vegan and I feel better.
And you know, you can tell yourself what you want to feel, you know. It's not necessarily always a food, but I completely agree with you there. Like, you know, by adding in fruit and vegetables to your diet, you're getting a higher level of nutrients in your overall diet. You could slightly argue, obviously, that by excluding animal products from your diet, you're taking like various essential nutrients out, like you're reducing those as well. So like everything it's everything in moderation, isn't it? Because meat gives us all things like what, calcium,
iron, like you say, in the
iron, zinc, our omega-3s, obviously from fatty fish, vitamins, B12, D. Like there's all of these really great things that you get from meat that you have to plan ahead when you're doing a more exclusive diet like that. And that's where like the help of supplements like Nicole, for example, and a couple of my other vegans, we have to ensure like their multivitamin or like their supplement protocol is a little bit more thought through to make sure that they're not deficient in anything. And it's like little things like that. It's just being mindful of where you sacrifice one thing, you have to support with another. And working
ensuring that you get the right balance
through. Exactly.
Because I guess the vegetarian diet is going to be a little bit easier in regards to, you can incorporate things like eggs, egg whites and stuff like that into a prep. You can still get lean protein.
Exactly. And for some vegetarians, like lacto-vegetarians, like some vegetarians will allow dairy in their plan in some respects, which I guess is different. You know, your pescatarians is obviously with your fish.
That's a bit easier, isn't it? Because fish is such a broad range there that you know, health benefit wise, you could probably hit most of it with your fish.
100%. And I mean, I would love to maybe try eating just fish as my protein source for a week. I love fish. I think it's great. But then there's all the sort of ways in which you can get protein these days as well, from like you said, the protein blend, the vegan protein blend that you spoke about earlier. They've got all these different, like for vegetarians as well, they've got all these different kind of plant proteins and things like that, don't they? Pea protein, hemp protein, soy protein.
All I would say is stay away from unflavored.
Some of them are rough.
Terrible.
Really bad. I've tried a couple as well. Not so great.
Not cool. And also I found that a lot of the protein bars now, they're pretty much all like vegetarian or vegan, just so they can cater for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a good thing, actually, again, because I think, it's not excluding people. I think nowadays, if you think about vegan, vegetarians, or any of these diets, the market is so much more
Because it's more
varied now.
versatile, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, you even just look in the last year now, when you go into the supermarket, there is a full section for vegans or
And it's bigger and
for,
bigger.
and it does, it's getting so much more prolific. Like, I don't know about where you are at the moment, Sarah, but up here, like up the street from where I live, there's now like a little health food shop, and it's like everything is about that kind of culture, vegan friendly. They sell like fresh vegetables from the local farms here in Aberdeenshire. They bring it all in. They've got a real kind of vibe. They sell hand washes that are friendly, all of the different kinds of stuff that you would get. And it's that kind of more eco local vibe that is encouraging people to take their bags, buy their produce fresh, do all of that. And I think I do quite like that culture, because it's bringing you back, dare I go all hippie on everyone now, but it's bringing you back to the land and sort of feeling like you're supporting the process of where you get your food from, rather than just going into a giant chain and being like, fuck it, I'll just buy whatever I want. What I mean? It's people being a bit more mindful about where their food comes from, I guess.
Yeah, and I think on that subject as well, it's important for people to know that, like, when I first started getting vegan protein powder, I used to think, oh God, are people going to think I'm some sort of, like, not hypocrite, but then I'm having chicken for my next meal. And I used to worry about saying, oh, I do use a vegan blend. And then I think, it's important to know that it's okay to still use vegan products. It doesn't mean that you have to be necessarily following the vegan lifestyle completely, but you can enjoy that, it's on offer now. You've got that option to have different stuff. If it settles better for you, or you enjoy the taste more, what's the problem?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ultimately, it's just trying to find what works for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think, like, one of the things, if we were to like link it back to bodybuilding again, like, one of the things I think people automatically assume is, on one of these types of diets, you can't build as much muscle,
or you can't prep.
Yeah, or it's compromised in some way or another. And again, that's just totally lacking education around it and knowing how to prepare this kind of diet. A lot of it comes down to people going, like, if I don't know something, I'm going to just say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And again, I can actually pinpoint a couple of people on my team, both come in for contest prep last year, this year, both done very well on a vegan diet all the way through, got the same level of conditioning as our other athletes. To be completely honest with you, not masses amounts of issues along the way with being on that type of diet either. So I've seen it now. I've seen varied types of diets bring people into condition in the way that we like to bring people into condition, which is, is as tight and shredded as we can be, and know that they work. So I feel a lot more like open to the suggestion of trialing different things to help somebody have the most fulfilling and enjoyable type of prep to get to the stage. Yeah.
Because Sophie, who we had on as our first ever guest on the pod, she does have fish, but the rest of the time, so it's sort of pescatarian, but she's almost vegan, but just has the fish. So it's more into the vegan diet in regards to everything but fish is vegan for her. And she's really enjoyed this prep. We're both competing together on the 12th, and she's had no problems at all, really. And naturally the fish has massively helped that, but hers is generally ethical reasons. She loves her horses and sheep and everything else. She's like a real, you would never know when you meet her, but she's just, animals are really, really important to her. So for her, she doesn't want to eat meat as such, and that's okay as well. But even when you say, oh, it's a vegan diet and you have fish, some people will go, oh, well, it's not vegan then. But
have you I was going to ask you, did you watch a wee while back a documentary? I mean, there was a couple. There was one that was it Game Changers or something?
Oh, Christ.
Which was really like, you had one camp over here being like, I support, and then the other camp over here being like, what a load of absolute crap.
Yeah, and they had some studies and things, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And I'd love to maybe get on and talk about these documentaries that they put out into the kind of media sphere to just normal layman people who maybe don't have any idea about anything and take it for gospel, because that's really bad. But I mean, there was another one recently, which was David Attenborough's climate change documentary. Did you watch that?
No.
Honestly, I've always like been quite kind of like do my bit. You know, I'm conscious of things that I want to do and make sure that I'm doing my bit as much as I can. You know, I don't know a lot though, and I feel like after I watched this documentary, I should know a hell of a lot more. But this was really hard hitting. I actually didn't realize, I think, some of the ethical issues around what's going on in various parts of the world that can actually have such a huge influence to why people might switch over to these types of diets. And I kind of understood it when I watched this documentary. And not only did it make me think extremely about like climate change, I'm gonna just warn all listeners now, it's quite heavy, so be prepared.
Yeah. You need to be ready for this.
Yeah, you need to be ready for it. It is quite dark and it is pretty heavy, but it's also very enlightening, and it does make you level up a little bit, so much to the point where I actually bought a book about climate change. Anyway, that's by the by. But
interesting though.
It really is. And a big part of it was around our consumption of food and what, you know, obviously how our animals are bred, what that does to our environments, and what the chain of custody kind of looks like with food processed from farms to the actual plate through the supermarkets, etc., and all of that. And I thought that was really fascinating. And it does make you think about buying fresh food, like even just coming back to the thoughts of like, you know, whether you're vegan or pescatarian or whatever. Are you buying organic? Are you not? Are you buying from caged hens? Are you not? Are you buying like fresh, you know, meat that's been looked after by certain, you know, there's certain stamps you can see on food packaging and stuff that actually tells you what kind of process it's been through and stuff. And it's made me a lot more aware of that. And actually, even as a meat eater, it's helped me be cleaner with the foods that I buy. So I think everybody, no matter what diet they're on, has a responsibility to kind of make choices that help the greater good. I don't know where I'm really going with this, but it's just kind of some ramblings.
I do think that, you know, even like you said, they're touching on meat. When you buy chicken breasts from Tesco, how much shit comes out of them?
Oh my god, it's like it's like you're cooking your chicken in like a puddle.
Broth.
Kind of like, what's going on? It's gross, yeah.
And then I remember the first time I purchased some chicken breasts from the local butchers, and I thought, where's all the stuff? Nothing came out.
Completely different story. Yeah.
And it just, you know, and that I guess verges on the subject of the shit they pump into it. You've then got the tangent of some people actually go into vegetarian, vegan diets because they say, oh, they put loads of shit in meat. Don't get me wrong, it may be less, different, whatever, but when you buy vegetables, fruit, etc., that is also sprayed with shit. So there's another, you know, there's a toss of the coin where you get into these arguments and debates of vegetarian and vegan versus meat. There's pros and cons to both of those.
Yeah, there is, exactly. And it is like, people can be really passionate, can't they, about why they choose certain things. And that's why I can understand your conversation with your friend there, where he'll be saying one thing because he's so firmly entrenched in the ethos of a vegan, which, let's be honest, there's a real ethos with it. It's not just I'm eating diet, there's a whole culture involved in it.
And there's big benefits.
Yeah. I mean, like, more so, do you not agree, like, that it's more so than kind of other diets that have come out, though? Like, the vegan movement, it is a movement. It's a real, it's all interlinked.
I almost feel like it's a bit back to what we've said before about, you know, certain people following certain ways of doing a prep and what have you, and becoming totally invested in certain coaching strategies or whatever it may be. People become very, very tunnel vision on, I am a vegan. And I've met a lot of vegans that almost give the impression that they are better than you because they feel educated on veganism. But actually, when you do dig a little bit and you pick, you know, it's not always backed up by the education that we're trying to say here is quite important. You know, that they've maybe watched that documentary you mentioned there. That's actually what, funny you say that, that's what me and my friend ended up talking about first, and then it went into this massive heated debate. But that actually, I think, probably propelled veganism into even more of this light of, well, if I'm a vegan, I'm part of this like cult almost, you know, societal.
Yeah.
And then it became reasons of a bit like bodybuilding. I'm a bodybuilder, I'm vegan, and searching for that label. And it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like we always say with bodybuilding, it should be very intrinsic, and I feel like it's quite a similar thing with diets.
Yeah, 100%. But I hear what you're saying as well about the kind of the psychology around it. And then when somebody, I remember having a conversation with Nicole about this. She was like, I've been a vegan since day dot. I never jumped on a vegan bandwagon or anything else. But she even spoke about, you've got your vegans who are just vegans and they crack on. You've got your vegans who want the whole world to know that they're vegans and will make sure that that you feel less of a person because you're not a vegan, which is, it's the same, I guess, in every microcosm of whatever you do. You're always going to have your far left of the voice and the far right of the voice, and somewhere in between, you hope everyone just kind of settles down and just cracks on.
It's like Nicole would be, hi, my name's Nicole, I'm a vegan. It's like, and I bet that will make her laugh because she can probably relate to that.
Oh, she does. And she always spoke about how you can see it on people's like their Instagram handles, you know, like
vegan bodybuilder,
vegan bodybuilder, bodybuilding vegan. It's like everyone has to know that they're vegan. And it was like, why? Because it's the same, exactly what you opened up with, but you don't go like, you know, Sarah Parker Hatchard, meat eater.
Yeah. I always remember it because it was definitely, so that was around when the documentary came out, when bodybuilders, there was more vegans, you know, coming into the sport. It was all around that like 2019. So we've had a good couple of years of it now, but it's only grown and grown and grown. Like I say, most protein bars, all the things you get, they're all labeled vegan now. And actually, like you said, I think it's a good thing in regards to they're actually easier to digest and enjoy as part of a varied diet because they're made from quite a lot of like raw foods, pressed fruits, things like that you might not have in your diet otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and it's good.
Like seeds, nuts, you know, all that kind of stuff, and those kind of more like bar-based stuff. Yeah,
as well, a lot of people I work with that are vegan, you know, they're like, oh, you know, I've introduced things like peanut butter more, and it's like a tablespoon, and you know, all of those foods that you've just reeled off, unfortunately the fats are going to be a lot higher, and then going into this like really high fat diet. But it's a bit like that sweet potato and white potato argument. People go, well, sweet potato is much healthier. Not really, no, they're both, it's a bit more carbs, they're both potatoes. You know, what's the difference? Whatever one digests well and whichever one you like. And it's the same with, oh, well, I'm eating loads more peanut butter now instead of meat. And it's like, that's a really good thing. But actually, what is good about that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I completely agree with you. I mean, everyone's going to have my rule's better than your rule, isn't it? It's just like the sweet and the white potato one always makes me laugh because the properties are like the same, you know, just it tends to be this. Some people suffer more with the fiber content of sweet potato, usually digestion wise.
It's literally when I look, you know, because so many people say to me, oh, you know, I went for my cheat meal or my meal that I have once a week, whatever you want to call it, but I had sweet potato fries because obviously they're healthier. And I'm like,
yeah, fried, right?
I had sweet potato fries. So they're not deep fried like the white potatoes. I know, but sweet potatoes are healthier. Are they? Or like, I had a breakfast out, and what I did was I had avocado, 3 eggs, and salmon instead of a fry up. Okay.
Right. Let's measure the calorie intake. Let's measure that, and then let's measure the fat intake.
When I was vegetarian, when we used to go to Nando's, because you know Nando's is like the best place for a bodybuilder that uses my Fitness Pal. I'm so bored of it now. I haven't been for ages, but I went through a phase where it was like the only option if I was going out. And when I started tracking my food, and because I was vegetarian, I used to have the halloumi and mushroom wrap. I think it's the highest calorie option on the whole of the menu. But
like the halloumi is crazy on that menu.
Mental. And I thought, you know, before getting into bodybuilding and nutrition, that was going to be the healthiest option. But I could probably have 2 or 3 of the chicken burgers for the equivalent amount of calories. And it was like, oh God, and I could never eat one again because now I know the calories. But, you know, it's amazing how, another example, I had a portobello mushroom as a side once at Nando's because I thought, have some veg, as you do. So I didn't have my phone, I don't think. So I put it in when I got home. 11 grams of fat in a portobello mushroom because they fry it
in like butter and stuff like that. Yeah, I know.
That was an epic fail.
Yeah, it is mental. That's an interesting point, actually, though, what you've just mentioned there about veg. Because so when I'm doing like a more plant-based diet, you know, in a normal world, I don't usually ask many of my meat-eating bodybuilders to weigh to the gram the veg. I give them certain rules around it, like the veg has got to be green. It can't be root vegetables. It can't be, you know, anything that's root basically. So usually it's green veg, and good rule of thumb is 100 grams with a meal. That's quite a large portion of veg. Not most people don't go as far as that, but I know that that's a rough number. But on the flip side, with obviously a vegan or a vegetarian diet, it is very much calculated. So the veg is very much part of the whole overarching plan, which is weighed. What it's cooked in is really vital, because for all sakes and purposes, and I'm actually looking at a book I've got up there, a recipe book for vegans. If you're not careful, for a bodybuilder, it can be very boring, very boring. And so it's important to still have variety in those kinds of diets, and allowing them to create little recipes using the different, you know, grains, seeds, spices, vegetables, cereals, you know, all these kinds of things. It's important for them to be able to create what they like with it, because it's not like you or I who just go, right, a piece of chicken, a veg, and a potato. They usually use a lot more emphasis on mixing things and trying things and adding things. So I try to give a bit of flexibility on that to allow them to enjoy it, because otherwise you could literally just say, right, have 100 grams of spinach, 15 grams of quinoa. I mean, I'm pulling out of thin air here. Have some peas and
a bit of peanut butter.
Yeah, it's like, what? But then how are you going to put that all together? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're considering a vegan or a vegetarian diet, it's important to have kind of, I go in with a more recipe-based plan as well sometimes.
I always get caught. I forget that yogurt, it doesn't fall under vegan, does it? A lot of the time. I know there is options. I don't know how much you know about, you know, you mentioned the alternative section in Tesco of like vegan stuff in the fridge section. If you go there's another fridge section of like the dairy alternative stuff.
Yeah, like coconut yogurts, like the natural coconut ones. I put those.
They're much higher in fat.
They're really high in fat. I have to say they're amazing. But like,
are they?
Yeah, they are amazing. Even I have them. They're gorgeous. There's a natural coconut one I use. What's the brand? It's in a white and blue tub, and it is utterly delicious. Even I have it sometimes in the morning.
I've always looked at the macros and been like, do I want to spend my macros on this?
Yeah, the Coconut Collaborative.
Sure,
that's what it is. Yeah, here it is. The coconut, I've got it up. It's the Coconut Collaborative plant-based natural coconut yogurt. It won a Great Taste Award, like I think it was last year or whatever, but it is ridiculously good. So like some of these like alternative plant-based yogurts, but in smaller quantities, obviously, because of the fat content.
So would you incorporate things like that into your vegan clients?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, in the morning with some berries, like that's a good breakfast, for example. Post-workout snack or pre-workout kind of snack. You know, there's certain things that you can put in there. Would I take those kind of yogurts out maybe a bit closer to the show day? Yeah, I'd keep it more cleaner to the whole foods personally. But there's still...
I think this would be quite a good question to you for vegan clients. Do you still try and hit the sort of 25 gram minimum protein serving each time they eat throughout the day?
You try your best to get it there. Sometimes I have to kind of do an overarching day intake rather than a meal intake with vegans, because it's quite difficult to hit bang on, you know, the protein intake per meal that you want them to have. As long as you're getting the overarching protein intake across the day, that should be a good rule of the thumb. You can be more exact, obviously, with meat eaters, because we can literally weigh out protein quite easily.
Yeah. Because there was a movement with that as well, definitely, probably a few years ago now, where actually so many people came out that are of the educated realm, and they said if you hit your protein goals within, I think they ended up saying 24 hours, the serving, it's ideal, but it's not gonna make that much of a difference, because before it would be like, if you don't hit the 25-gram serving, protein synthesis ain't happening and you're not a bodybuilder. And it became so rigid.
Yeah, it's absolutely, I mean, it's that's kind of going back to what I said earlier about you can overcomplicate it and you can scrutinize everything to the right, but it just, at the end of the day, if the overarching amount of calories and the macro breakdown is going in across the day and you're getting enough protein to support your weight height goal, then that should be enough.
Yeah. Because there's the tangents of, you mentioned keto at the start, didn't you?
Yes.
So there's like, you know, there's so many of those types of diets that actually, I don't know about you, but they seem to have died out a little bit now.
Yeah, I kind of don't hear much. I hear quite a bit about ketones. People trying to, buy ketones, but again, people don't really understand that. It's a bit of a gimmick in my eyes, and also, dare I say, it's a play on people that want to get in shape quite quick and think that these things are kind of a miracle cure. No amount of ketones is going to help you unless you're in ketosis.
And actually, and as you know, when you're going into true ketosis, we're not talking about, we're talking low in your boots carbs, and
like basically nothing,
under say 20 grams a day. And I don't think people quite realize what that actually looks like. I actually did a 6-week keto diet. Fuck me, I ended up going to the GP because I thought I genuinely thought I had a big problem with my health. I felt like I was dying psychologically, physically. I felt utter death, and it was because I was following, for me it didn't work, whereas I know people that work really well on a keto diet. So
I remember doing my very first bodybuilding diet in 2013, keto.
The first one.
The very first one. It was a bit of an experiment to myself, because I think like before, I don't know if I told you the story, but before I started bodybuilding, my first goal was to get to a certain body fat percentage to go on a holiday. My best mate was living in Brazil at the time with her partner. Nice. And I was going to Brazil, I was going to Rio de Janeiro, and I wanted to be like super fit to be on the beach. And this was my goal. And then thought keto was the way. Try
it. So you arrive on the beach and you can't string together a sentence and you need to just lay there.
I know. Well, I mean, it was really funny because, like, just exactly as you said, it kind of reacts differently with everyone. I was cool on a keto diet. Like, I was all right on a keto diet. And I remember losing weight well. I remember, though, feeling on days like, this is so freaking restrictive. Yeah. Because if anybody's ever tried a keto diet that's listening, high fat foods are very small. So when you're eating a plate of a keto diet, like
eggs, or say 5 eggs,
volume, you're not going to get volume from your food. You can, eggs, nuts, avocado, oils, butter, some cheeses, like stuff that's high fat, you don't get a lot of volume. So you actually feel like across the day, you're not eating all that much. You're getting a lot more calories for the small amount of food, but you're not eating a lot. So it's not a very fulfilling diet, in my opinion. So I do remember having it and thinking, God, this is tough. Like, this is not, it's not.
You'd think it'd be really good thinking of high fats. That actually makes me remember the first meal of each day for me for that 6-week period was double whipping cream.
Oh yeah, double cream, yeah.
Protein powder It was 30 mils shot of olive oil. So the protein powder and the cream went in. And what else did I have with it?
Flaxseed. Jesus, I had that.
Yeah, maybe some sort of, and some peanut butter in there. And I'd whiz that up. So I'd shot the 30 mils of olive oil and then drink the shake. Dear Lord, it was just, and you know, like whipped cream, it was like half a container, and it repeats, doesn't it, cream? And for 6 weeks, and then I just thought, oh my God, like I just felt like death. But like I say, and like you've just said, I know, well, a couple of people spring to mind that I know get on really, really well. Like one of the guys that used to work at my place, personal trainer, he would just get half a block of cheese out and eat that in between clients. You know, he'd just nibble on that, and then he'd have a massive Meridian peanut butter. He'd just, you know, have some of that. He really liked it because obviously the affiliation with carbs is that it can cause, you know, people can feel too full, it can go down the route of inflammation, blah, blah, blah. So some people don't actually like too many carbs.
Yeah, totally. And again, like I've done a lot of different diets, and I think, you know, you have to go through different diets to see what your body's responses are like. I do find that, and we've probably mentioned this in the previous podcast, but a lot, particularly females, will come initially and feel like carbs are the enemy. And I feel like there's this kind of ingrained scaremongering around carbohydrate, and it almost pushes some people into trying other things prior to even just going and just eating a normal, you know, balanced protein carbohydrate diet. There is no doubt in my mind that particularly for bodybuilding populations, that you need to have an element of carbohydrate in the diet for conditioning. Like I believe it to my core. It's where you get the building blocks of energy to actually train. You need to be able to recover. You need the carbohydrate to do that. Like it's just a absolute building block of a bodybuilding diet, in my opinion.
Longevity.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's not just taking a full food group out of your diet and then freaking out when you. I mean, doing the keto diet for me and then putting carbs back in, that was a pretty big learning curve for me. When I remember back to it, thinking like, because my body just went boom, you know, because it was like I haven't been eating any of these carbohydrates for such a long time. My body didn't know what to do with them. I had a period of quite discomfort for like a few months until I started to settle out. And I remember actually writing down pros and cons of kind of why I did the keto plans. At the time, I could probably dig them out somewhere actually. And remember saying to myself, the next time I do this, I'm going to be doing a more protein carbohydrate based diet. From then on in, conditioning, it's just completely different from, you know, first year or so of doing this. But
and psychologically as well, accepting carbohydrates back into your diet is particularly difficult. Touching on there where you said with females, you know, I don't want carbs, I don't need carbs. If you then take them out pretty much completely to go into keto, very hard to get back into it. How long did you do keto for? Can you remember?
Oh my God, it was wild. It was probably bordering on near a year.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, because I did a whole prep, full keto prep. I think I had it would have been more than that. I had a few like points where I had a wee break and a refeed, and I put like carbohydrates in, ate, came away from it, went back into ketosis, and by like 6 weeks past that point of having that refeed, I was back in ketosis again, and I would do it and do it and do it. I had a couple of people around me at the time who were quite savvy with keto approach, so I felt like I was quite supported, like with why I was doing what I was doing.
I would say that's quite important.
It wasn't easy though. I mean, it's by far out of everything I've ever done, it's probably by far the most difficult diet I've ever done.
Yeah.
not that it was my first one as well. Jesus.
I definitely say it was my hardest and least enjoyable diet I've ever done, to be honest.
I agree. Yeah.
My favorite is why I've done it for so long is flexible dieting, because I feel like for me, flexible dieting is appropriate because, like last pod, I said, you know, I can become too neurotic if I'm on a strict food plan. But with the flexible dieting, I actually put myself on a food plan, but it varies slightly. So for me, it's really, really good because I've got that discipline and knowledge there to be able to apply it to a flexible approach and not just be a dick and eat shit all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so it works so well. You know, it's not hard for me to go 2 different vegetables, some chicken and a carb sauce, depending on what sort, you know, what stage I'm in. And that's so easy for me. I have everything plain. It's not an issue, but it all depends on what your psychological makeup with food is and what your goal is.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes you got to try these things to know, don't you? We put ourselves through all sorts of crazy things to try and get like eke out a little bit more, or get a different sort of approach to it. But no, I mean, flexi dieting, I think, out of everything we've spoken about today, makes the most sense to me. I never want to say people should stay away from things completely, but the keto really is something that you should be ready for if you're really going to go into that, because that is very restrictive.
I also think that people need to understand that you need to do it properly to actually, you know, label it as keto. You would need some education behind that. It's not just, oh yeah, I'm keto. If you're doing true ketosis, it's a very restrictive and structured way to look at it.
It is. I mean, people
there's even carbs in yogurt.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if I was to say to you like a strict keto day right now, it would be
shot of olive oil.
It would be a shot of Udo's oil or a shot of olive oil, bacon and egg.
Yep.
Breakfast.
Nice start.
Nuts for a snack.
Yep.
A chicken or tuna salad with greens and avocado. Steak and salmon and veg and some
peanut butter.
Oh, and some peanut butter, yeah. But even in peanut butter, there's carbs, right? So even in that's carbs. So like if you were going strict, it wouldn't even have peanut butter in it. It would just have pure nuts.
Yeah. So we're looking at just plain nuts.
So like literally like that would be it. That would be it. That would literally be a day. It's like steak, salmon, veg, oils, nuts, bacon, eggs, chicken.
Yeah.
More oils, flaxseed, avocado.
And
and even like you could even argue avocado is slightly carbohydrate driven.
Because you got carbohydrates in. I always forget that in avocado. I actually scanned one yesterday and I thought, oh yeah, there's carbs in that.
Yeah. It's like,
am I going to have
like,
one?
Keto is so ridiculous if you're going to go strict in it. It's crazy.
It's different. You know, you've probably come across I'm keto, and I'm like, tell me what you have. Yeah, you're not keto. And I'm not being a dick. I'm just, you know, you're not keto. It's as simple as that. And what are you actually trying to do?
You've got to remember, like, the science behind keto is you're trying to derive energy from fats.
Yeah.
Cells from your fat in your body, not from glycogen, carbohydrate, which is our usual source of using energy is from glycogen. Yeah. From obviously the carbohydrates. So you're actually eliminating the body's process from taking your energy on a day-to-day basis from carbohydrate, because it can't do that. It's taking it straight from just fat. So it's teaching your body a totally new mechanism of where to get its energy from.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure some people will talk about when they're in proper ketosis, feel like a freaking bullet, like their energy is like boom, because, you know, some people respond extremely well from taking their energy straight from fats.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I like carbs, so.
So do I.
Carbs are life.
Carbs are life. In fact, I'm going to go and savage a banana right now.
Love it. In memory of me.
In memory of you, of course.
So thanks again to the listener that sent in this as a topic, because I think it's actually been really good. As we always do, we start with a topic and it goes organically from there. So we want,
I like what you did there, organically from there.
Organic, on the term of organic and different food choices. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool because we've covered so much over our female competitor series. It was really good to have a topic suggestion come in. So keep them coming. Keep sharing on your Instagram stories in particular, because Steff and I mean, that's our favorite. It's our favorite pastime.
It is our favorite pastime, and we've had such a good high response from loads of you. So if this has touched something that you feel passionate about, drop us a DM, drop a comment, or just take a snapshot of us here right now, tag us, and let us know what you thought was good about this pod today. Yeah, awesome. So find me on Instagram, Sarah Parker Hatchard. Yep, and Steff Noble Figure Pro, or you can go check out Pro Prep Coaching for all your coaching inquiries. Yeah, go and check out Nicole Third, our vegan bodybuilder, and be inspired, because she is one hell of a bodybuilder.
check out the gains.
Yeah.
Cool. So until next week.
Yep, we'll catch you all soon. Thanks, Sarah. And if we don't see you,
smash it.
We all want to wish Sarah a massive good luck at her up and coming contest. It's been a long time coming and I can't believe it's here. So go and show them what that booty is made of.
Let's get it. See you later.
Bye, guys.